Hey guys, Kamikaze here with part 2, I guess, of my 6-part Kindred series, going over the decks, the starter decks for Kindred. This one we're going to do Dread, which is Undead Uprising. Again, this follows suit with the previous one, where they're using families as sort of a guideline to the decks. So this one is mostly of Undead. Undead is like kind of like zombies and stuff like that. So they show off like Shade, which is one of the new cards. Then you keep scrolling down. They give you the whole deck list. As per usual, I made a little picture showing the deck list, so it's a little bit easier rather than having to constantly like go here and not really understand if you're a new player, like what these cards do or whatever. So, up first we'll go to the hero, Death Shifter Zelena. So her ability is remove one of your death buffs to deal 3 damage to your target, and then you take 1 damage. This can't be increased by effects. So before we even look at the deck, we should see what kind of death cards in particular are buffs. So I made a little quick cheat thing right here showing all the stuff. I spelled poison wrong, but you guys understand. So all the death buffs, or all the death cards in this deck are buffs outside of combos. As you see here, all of them. So you can use this ability pretty well. Later on, I'll talk about the little things that you can use. And it's cool that she's superior in death, so you're able to just flood the board with death cards if you want to, and then proc them off anytime you want. So we'll go to the combos. Again, I like ordering the combos in from 2 cost to 4 cost. Rigor Mortis, I like this card in the starter deck. It's just when you play it, it costs 2 death. Instead of discarding cards, you store it underneath this. And then when you want to use the defend ability, you heal to the number of what it says on the corner plus the number of stored cards. And then you move the stored cards to the graveyard, or to the discard pile. Again, for new players, it's really nice. Big chunk of healing, and it also introduces the game of your opponent needs to try to remove this before you get this big burst of heal. Devour Soul, Shadow Death, easy, you just remove a buff from another hero and you heal for 8. It's not like this starter deck needs more buff removal, but it is really nice to just have something. Say if you do run out of all your buff removal, you can use this and get a big chunk of healing. Drain Life, Double Death, and Shadow. Really simple, easy card. A horrific manifestation. Again, the one of all the elements of Dread. I like that every single starter deck has this. It's wonderful. Just introduces for new players the idea of keeping one of each element. 10 damage, and then they move 2 combo cards from your hand to your deck. I use this in my Grimace Poison deck, just because if you're playing against other decks that like to just stockpile hand, sooner or later they're going to have at least 1 combo card, so taking that off forces them to like play really differently. Because a lot of people like to just stockpile cards in their hand to get the big combo off, or try to pay for a combo using another combo, so if you could just put those back to the deck, you kind of ruin their plan. And then Toxicant is the 4-cost combo in this starter deck. Double Poison, Shadow, and Death. I don't think this is the best combo for this deck. It's cool though, because you can use it to practically pay for a lot of the combos. Like you could play for Horrific Manifestation, you could pay for Devour Soul, and you could half pay for Rigor Mortis and Drain Life. So it's really nice, but it's an okay combo. You probably want to run it in like maybe like a super buff heavy that like wants to keep buffs on the field the whole time. Onto Poison, we have Corrupted Spirit at 2. This is a Awakening card, and then Gurgling Ooze, which is a rare card. I like that they put this in for the starter deck. When you play it, your opponent can't buff. So it's really good against like Storm, because Storm's buff removal is Thunder Slug, which is a buff card. So they can't remove your buffs. It's really cool. For the Kindred cards, we have Crude Exterminator, 3 damage, and then remove 2 beasts from your opponent's from your recipient. Plays on with the whole family archetype. 3 damage is okay if you want to compare it to like Corrupted Spirit, which is also 3 damage, but it's more mainly for if you're playing against like another starter deck, maybe the Storm deck or maybe the Nature deck, like just removing the buffs. The beast buffs are nice. Shade, which was the card that they showed off at the website right here, this guy. Pretty good. You know, first 2 corners do nothing, and then corner 3 you deal damage to your target. You deal 2, and then the corner 4 you draw 2. It's sort of like a Shadow Supplier with a little bit of damage, and actually that's kind of a lie. It's not really Shadow Supplier, because Shadow Supplier you kind of proc off more buffs. But I think it's really nice, especially for new players. Having cards that do something and make you draw feels really good for both like veteran and beginner players. And the art on it is really sick. A lot of the art for the Kindred Dread cards are really sick. Spectral Widow, deal it's 2/2/2, so you deal damage to your target, and then it bypasses damage blocks. So it's like Yukona Oracle or Wall of Bones or Bubblefish. It just goes right through. So there's no amount of block damage that can stop this card. Really nice. I'm happy it's only a one of, because it is kind of not really a gimmicky card, but most of the time you're just kind of using it for 2, and you don't really care if there's damage on the field, and then or damage reduction, and then if they do damage reduction, it's bypasses it. Onto Death. Death again has 10 cards. So Bone Reaper and Shambler, I've just talked about both of them. They're both just like the standard death dealing buffs. Bone Reaper just nothing, and then 4 healing and damage. So it's like your burst heal for just outside of combos. And then Shambler is just nothing, 3/3 damage. So it's really good. I guess I'll talk about the combos later, like the tricks that you could do with the Zelena. Wall of Bones is just 2 of damage reduction. In all the starter decks, they always run 2 damage reduction cards. It's really nice. Stalking Cypid is mythical card. Only clunky 3/3/3, and then it only heals you when your opponent draws 2 cards that turn. So I like this card because, again, it forces the person you're playing against to either play an action and then draw a card, or forebode, like playing an action, just drawing 2 and giving you a 3 heal. So it does have like that kind of rock, paper, scissors element to it. So I really do like that they added that to this deck, especially for new players. Like teaching new players certain strategies, like not to just pass your turn, or to try to play a card or play 2 actions and then not even draw. Like I like that idea, giving players the variables to play out their turn. Sacrificial Pit, it's burn and then nothing 1. You move a discarded undead card from your hand, or discard so undead card from your grave to your hand, and then restart it if you play an Umbron card. There's only a couple of Umbrons. I think there's 4. We could count real quick if we want. All right. So no Umbrons here. There's 2 Umbrons from Crude Exterminator. Skeletal Rider. So 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 Umbron cards. You could probably get it off a lot, but mainly, again, you have outside of Sacrificial Pit, you have oh man, I didn't count the undeads. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 undead cards. So you have 9 undead cards you could probably bring back with Sacrificial Pit. It's not that bad. Most of the time, you're probably, depending on the matchup, you're probably going to want to bring back Shambler or Bone Reaper. But Fallen Guardian is really good. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I think this card's okay. It really flavorful. Sacrificial Pit, you keep sacrificing Umbrons to keep on getting your undead stuff back. I don't know. I really like this. Is probably my favorite card of the starter deck, just because the flavor on it. Skeletal Rider is the next one. It's a little Umbron card, and then ability 2 damage. So it's a buff that just stays on the field, doesn't rotate. I like having this in the game, or in the starter deck for new players, because it's one of the only buffs that just stays. Like it doesn't rotate, it doesn't have clunky, so it's just like kind of like a field spell card if like you're used to, I guess, like Yu-Gi-Oh or something. And then ability 2 damage, and then heal yourself for 2 if you played an undead this turn. So example, like you want to play, I don't know, like say you play Bone Reaper and then you activate the effect of Skeletal Rider. Of course you can, because they're both death and the hero is superior death. So then you'll deal 2 damage and then heal for 2. So it's a 4-point swing. Really, really nice. Fallen Guardian is only a 1 of. It's undead. And then nothing 2/2. And then reduce damage by received by 2, and then deal damage by 2. So it is, I guess you could probably consider it like another copy of Wall of Bones, but you also deal damage as well. So I really like that. I think this card is really flexible, and maybe in some aggro decks, like when you start constructing your own deck, you might not want to go Wall of Bones and you might want to just go triple Fallen Guardian, but maybe, I don't know. Again, that's what I like about Lightseekers. You're able to have flexibility with all the cards, and not like every single card has a way to be used. It's not like a lot of card games where they just print a card and it's like, oh, that card's kind of useless. Like, you're never going to use that. Onto Shadow. Triple Shadow Puppet. Again, all the starter decks come with triple buff removal. Really, really nice. Wow, I spelled strategy wrong too. Damn. That's what happens when you make this this thing real quick late at night, huh? Shadow Supplier at 2. Nothing, 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 and then draw equal to the number of number of buffs you have in play. It's okay in this deck. It's a little hard to get more than like 3 or 4 draws out of it, but it's still really nice because for a new player, you're getting rewarded for keeping a big field active. So, and it does, you know, have the rock paper scissors of if you're playing against someone that played Shadow Supplier, do you want to give them the free draws, or do you want to try to take out their buff so this guy doesn't even work properly? Shadow Grave is Shadowy Grave is the last card out of Mythical Awakening. It's Awakening. It's a rare card too, so I really like that they gave another copy of a rare card. Deal damage to your target. It's only in the 3rd and 4th corner. Does 3 damage, and then move your last discarded card to your deck. So how this works is it does nothing on the 1st and 2nd corner, and then when it rotates, it deals 3 damage, and then whatever the top card is on your discard, it goes back to your deck. Doesn't matter if it's a combo. Doesn't matter if it's a buff or an attack, as long as it's not burn. If it's burn, then this effect doesn't work. So it's really cool. You could probably, I don't know, drop like a big combo like Horrific Manifestation, then this rotates to the 3rd corner, and then you put that back in your deck. Now to the Kindred cards. Fortune Master. It's an Umbron, choose a family. Other heroes can't play cards or abilities of that family. Again, it's really cool if you're playing starter deck versus starter deck. A lot of these starter decks like to revolve around one family. So if you play this guy for 3 turns, you choose, say you're up against the Storm deck, you want to say Beast, so they can't play any Beast cards. So a lot of their actions are hindered because of that. They probably have to pass a couple turns, or they have to start playing like other things, maybe like elemental or location cards, because they can't use beasts. I really like this. Again, for new players, it introduces the idea of forcing your opponent to like not be able to do something, and it gives you positive feedback that you're doing good. And like the art is so sick. Like it's just the Umbron looking at a bunch of like different critters or families trying to choose which one he wants to harass. Blood Pack Redeemer, 4 damage, and then you move 1 combo from your discard to your hand. That's okay. It's alright in this deck, I think, but this probably opens up for more deck building cards. Like, say if you want to run a deck that revolves heavy on combos for Dread, you probably want to run through this guy and just keep on like cycling your combos really quick. And then the last card for the Dread is Umbron Necrolord. It's an Umbron, and then you may move rotation valid buffs or undead buffs from your hand to play. So it's nothing 1/1/1. Really good. Again, there's a lot of undead buffs in this deck, like Fallen Guardian, or if we go over here, Shambler and Bone Reaper. So it's really nice that this sort of gives you like 3 actions for 3 turns, which is really nice. So it's really cool. And then last but not least are the neutral cards. Healing 2, and then draw 2 cards if your enemy's holding more cards than you. So it's Umbron Barkeep. That was one of in the Storm deck. I think it's really good for this deck. The healing's nice, and then the drawing cards, because you're kind of dumping your hand a lot just to play a lot of buffs or play a lot of damage stuff. But if your opponent does play conservative, you can punish them and you know, get 2 draws out of it. It's really good. So let's go back to Zaleen. She has 32 health, so she's one of the buffer heroes, and the ability to remove a death card is really strong because, for example, if you play Bone Reaper, and then as Bone Reaper rotates, it does 4 damage, and then heals you for 4. So if you want, you can use one of your actions to remove Bone Reaper to do another 3 damage. So you do 7 whole points of damage, and you heal practically for 3. Because you'll heal for 4, and then you take 1 damage from Zaleen. So that's 7 damage, 3 healing, 10-point swing for 1 action is pretty nice. Same thing goes with Shambler. If you want, you can, you know, on the 3rd corner Shambler, so the 2nd corner hits for 3, then the 3rd corner hits for 3, You Zaleen it, you do another 3 damage, and you take 1. So you take 1 damage, they take a total of 9 damage from Shambler for 1 action. So it's okay. Also, if you want, you could remove Rigor Mortis if you want, like with the Zelena ability. I wouldn't recommend it because the healing is a lot better. You can also do it with like Drain Life. If Drain Life's on its like final corner, it heals you for 4, deals damage 4 to them, and then you remove it with Zelena ability. Because it just says death buffs, so it doesn't say death action buff, so you're able to remove your combos. So again, it's like a Shambler as well. You could do it, but overall, I think this deck has the whole idea of using death cards or undead cards, and then trying to bring them back with Sacrificial Pit, or trying to just swarm the field with Umbral Necrolord. Like Umbral Necrolord could just keep on swarming the field with buffs, and then your Shadow Supplier could activate, and then you get like maybe 3 or 4 draw. So it's really, really nice. Overall, I think this deck has like a lot of fun in it, which is really good for a starter deck because it does give the new player the ability to want to play the deck a certain way. I think maybe this deck doesn't have that much survivability. Like, there is a little bit of healing out of stuff, but I think overall this deck is really fun. I think maybe after I go through all the decks, I'll probably rank them from like what I think is the best to the least best in terms of, I guess, viability or fun. I don't know. We'll find that. If you guys have any ideas like how I should rank them, let me know. But overall, I think this deck works out really well. They introduced the idea of removing your own buffs to do a positive effect for yourself and dealing more damage to your enemies. So this is kind of like an pseudo-aggressive deck. Like, you just want to keep on having your death cards rotate to the final corner and then sacrificing them to deal more damage. So then it's really cool. But thank you again, guys, for watching. Next one will probably be Astral, so the Chimchu guys. So thank you guys for watching and take care.